It's time to take off your clothes, enjoy clothes-free living, and join us for Naked, Nudists, and Naturists.
Welcome to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, the show that celebrates clothes-free living for all. I'm your host, Frank Stone.
And I'm your correspondent, Lisa Monroe, and I'll be reporting on all things within the naturist community. So it's time to get naked and join us.
And enjoy clothes-free living on Naked, Nudists, and Naturists. Well, greetings and welcome into Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 48 today. We've been waiting all week for you to get here. We're glad that you are finally here, ready to go to enjoy clothes-free living for all of the right reasons. As you head out back, the pool is ready, the hot tub is going full force. You'll take in the aromas from the grill. We have hot dogs, we have steaks, we have hamburgers, we have a vegetable and fruit table off to the right, cold drinks off to the left. We even have some pool rafts. You want to float around? You can do that too. We're just here to enjoy the day, enjoy the sunshine, the breeze, that feeling on our skin as we're living clothes-free, and also to enjoy it with you through social naturism. Everything is gone. All the junk is gone. Doesn't matter what you do or what I do for a living or did or going to do. You're just you, and I'm just me. And we're going to have a great day and for sure a great hour on episode 48 today. Hope you had a chance to listen to episode 47 last week. If not, you might want to take a few moments to fire that up. We interviewed both candidates for the presidency of AANR, Tim Mullins and Linda Weber, about 20 minutes each. And they had some terrific things to say and lots of feedback on both interviews and on the entire show. Certainly the most feedback we've gotten all year. We didn't start off as an AANR podcast machine, but apparently it's turned into that to some degree. We've had Mitch London on now, I believe, 3 times, or he'll be on a 3rd time coming up soon. We've had Linda Weber on 3 or 4 times. We've had Tim Mullins on now the 1 time last week. ANDEE RODGERS, of course, 10 reports so far. Her full interview, part 1, 2 weeks ago, and part 2 on today's show. We have Ronna Crosey. We had her on for a brief interview a few months ago. We'll have her on for a full-length interview in the not-too-distant future over the summer. So lots of AANR people, but also board members, officers, whatever titles they have. We've had a lot of AANR people on, culminating in last week's show with Tim Mullins and Linda Weber, both running for the president. And remember, if you've not yet voted, you have until June 20th to take care of business there. So we wish you well on making your choice. Well, on today's show, believe it or not, we do not have a report from ANDEE RODGERS. She's had a report on the last 10 shows. She and her husband Tom went home to take a little break. They'll be starting up the tour again. And either next week or the week after, we'll resume the reports with them. We will have a bit of an extended segment today with Lisa Monroe, including the playing of a voicemail from one of our regular listeners by the name of Ken. He's from Texas. Ken wrote a lengthy email. I said, any chance you could put this into your voice and we'll play it? And he did. So today's the day. We will talk about his voicemail as well. And then, yes, part 2 of my interview with ANDEE RODGERS. You heard her story on episode 46. Wow. No human being should have to go through what ANDEE RODGERS went through when she was a child, or even as an adult. But she did, and somehow has come out of it stronger and better than ever. And she attributes a lot of her success to, guess what? Naturism. It gave her the power, the authority, the confidence to say, hey, I can do all things in life. So hats off to ANDEE RODGERS, and she will be on today's show, part 2 of my interview with ANDEE RODGERS. Now, before we get to my segment with Lisa Monroe, we have a few housekeeping things going on here. We just never have time to get to them because each show is so power-packed with content. We actually have a couple of minutes together, so let me go through a few things. First of all, a brand new show every single Saturday morning. As I like to say, they said it couldn't be done, but here we are, 48 straight weeks, and we're here. A brand new show every single Saturday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. And Lisa and I are up early. I'm always up early. She sets her alarm, and we look at the numbers coming in, first of all on Spotify, and later on Apple. Sometimes we don't get the Apple numbers until the next day. That's just how they run their system. But it's kind of cool and exciting to see the numbers coming in starting at 6 a.m. We have one listener, now we have two, now we have 10, now we have 20, and people just keep tuning in. It's great to see, and we appreciate you very much. Whether you listen right away, we like that a lot, or you listen later in the day or later in the week. Some people can't listen until Thursday. I've mentioned that before. One listener can't wait till Thursday because that's when he takes a drive out of town on business every single Thursday to visit a client. That's when he puts our show on. Others don't listen till Monday. Some of our people in Australia, this show hits very late on Saturday night, in New Zealand as well. And so they listen to it on Sunday or Monday. Whenever you listen, we are just glad that you do. The ratings are off the charts because of you, and we appreciate that very much. We also give you a brand new YouTube preview every Wednesday. I don't pump that up enough. I should, but I just never get around to it seems like. Every Wednesday morning, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, we put a preview of the upcoming show on YouTube. A little bit of graphics there for you to whet your whistle, whet your appetite for the upcoming show. And we ask and invite you to tune in as often as possible, Wednesday morning, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, or whenever you get around to it, just like this show. Our only social media outlet is Twitter. We are there all of the time. We monitor it pretty much 24 hours a day, certainly 18 to 20. And you can find us there. You can write us there anytime. But this past week, we started creating 1-minute videos, 1-minute promo videos. We put 2 of them out there on Twitter this week. So you might enjoy those as well. We're just working hard for you, bringing you naturism, nudism, naked, clothes-free living for all the right reasons. It's a great partnership we have with you. We appreciate you being here on episode 48 of Naked Nudists and Naturists. I don't know about you, but through the headphones I'm hearing some music. Could it be? Yes, I think it is. It's time for the great, the terrific, the one and only Lisa Monroe. And here she is, the one and only, the totally clothes-free, totally smiling, our weekly correspondent on naturism, Lisa Monroe. Good morning, Lisa. How are you today?
Good morning, Frank. I'm doing terrific today. How are you?
Not bad at all. You walked in smiling. You're still smiling. So we are off to a good start. And what a show we had last week. We had Tim Mullins and Linda Weber, both running for president of American Association for Nude Recreation. And the reaction has been off the charts, probably the most emails and Twitter messages we've gotten since we started the show. I'm guessing you got some reaction on your own as well.
I certainly did. And the interesting thing is that I think the one thing that Anna should be proud about is that there are very good people out there with a lot of interest and enthusiasm and wanting to see this community become even better than it is. And there's good people, attempting to lead us at the top. So, whatever happens, I think that Anna will be in good hands. And we're just really pleased that people responded so well to the 2 interviews that you did with them.
Yeah, very much so. And, I've been in this situation before, and Mitch London has mentioned it a couple of times now to me. He really had no idea how much work and time was going to be involved until he got in the chair. And then suddenly, whoa, whoa, Nelly, one of those things. And that's just the nature of the job. So the people who volunteer, and these are volunteer positions, we can't forget, they volunteer, well, I'll do this, that, and the other thing. And then they get to the chair, and it's like, I'll do this, that, and the other thing, plus 10,000 more things that I didn't know about. And they don't quit. They just keep on going on and going on and doing it. And hats off to everybody who's run for office and has made it to the office and has stayed in office, because that's a tremendous amount of work they do, and sometimes on a daily basis. So hats off to them, right?
Absolutely. And I think we've both been in situations where we've been like president of something or secretary of something or just in a leadership role. And that becomes a full-time job, even if it's just a local
Mhm.
organization.
That's
And
right.
so when you start to talk about adding, other people and other districts and other concerns, because what happens in Texas is completely different from what happens in Maine, and the politics are different from different states as far as what laws go. So this
Mhm.
is a huge undertaking, especially, this is not like the Tiddlywinks group. This is a group that has an automatic, real big issue that they have to deal with from
Yeah,
day one.
that's right.
So, again, like you said, hats off to the people who are willing to step up into this role. And regardless of what happens, congrats to all the people who were running unopposed and who still chose to come and do this job.
Mhm.
And, to the people who are running for president, we're behind you no matter
Yeah.
what.
And we want to thank Tim Mullins and Linda Weber for coming on the show. And it was great to have both on the same show, back to back. Here it is, folks. Here are your candidates. You'll hear one. Now you'll hear the other. You've just heard both. You can make your decision. And a number of people had already voted before our show aired last week. But a lot of people had not voted. We'll get that feedback too. They were waiting to the last minute. They want to get as much information as possible. And a reminder to everybody that the last date is June 20th to get your vote in for everything, all of the offices of ANR.
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of people who had made their mind up already probably voted as soon as they were able to. But
Yeah.
for those people who were still on the fence, who still, needed to hear more and more from each candidate, then hope that this particular show that we did really helped them make that decision.
Yeah, and that's why we exist to promote everything in the world of naturism.
That's
Now
right.
we have a voicemail. It's a little on the lengthy side. This gentleman wrote an email to us, and we can read emails here. We've done that before, but sometimes it's better to have it in the person's own voice. So I asked him to put it into voice, and he did that. And it's about 9 minutes long, and then we'll talk about it. But before we get to that, anything else on your mind today?
Well, the one thing I wanted to say is, I was listening to, I listen to podcasts,
Mhm.
the naturism podcasts. I mean,
Mhm.
we're all in this together. And
Right.
I was listening to Star Ranch the other day,
Mhm.
and it's really amazing because he was talking about how he had grown so much in just the last few weeks. And I thought that's just really great. And that's what we want to see. We want to see
Yeah.
more and more voices out there for this.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you come on this show. Whatever you do will be magnified. If you sell books, you'll sell more books. If you run a podcast, you'll get more listeners because our reach is so big and far and wide. And it was actually a listener who recommended Mark of Star Ranch to us. Reach out to him and see if you can get him on. And so we did, and it took a long time to get him on. He's a very busy guy. I don't
He
know what
is.
he does, but he works full time and whatever else he has going on, and it took two or three schedulings and postponements. We finally got him on for the short interview. That's really how it's supposed to work. We're supposed to help each other, not shoot at each other. And so I'm glad we could do whatever we did for Star Ranch and their ratings, and we'll keep that going whenever he's available. We'll get him back on. But I did get another a Twitter message, direct message from another podcast, not the Star Ranch, but another one that I don't have permission to give the title, and they wanted some information on a recent guest of ours. Unfortunately, we've lost all contact with that guest. He's not writing back, and we've tried. They want to get him on their show and maybe meet him in person and do some things together. So that's the way it's supposed to work. The other show here, Frank and Lisa had this guy on. Hey, why don't we get this guy on? And we tried to help, and we just can't yet. If he ever writes back, we'll give them all of the information. That's how it's supposed to work. Give and take, but a lot of giving, right?
It certainly is. And like we said before, we've both been in situations where we've been part of groups or organizations. And even if you might be in competition, and in some cases it was a business for me,
Hmm.
even if you were in competition with other companies, if you establish relationships with them, you would be surprised what they'd be willing to do when you need them.
Yeah, that's right.
And they came through for us, we came through for them, and everybody did much better. Everybody was everyone succeeded because of that. And if we start to yell and scream and debate each other at this level, what are we giving to the people who are listening to us?
Right, right. It's not good at all. Everybody loses at that point, and by helping
Absolutely.
each other, everybody wins.
Absolutely.
Let's get to this voicemail. It's from Ken. It's about 9 minutes long. His journey into naturism. Shameful for a long time. He thought it was sexual in nature. finally got a hold of the whole concept and is living a glorious life with his wife now because of it. So let's get to it right now. A voicemail from one of our listeners whose first name is Ken.
Hi, this is Ken. Frank asked me to call in and do a memo voice of how I became a nudist. So here we go. When I was about 7 years old, my friend and his sister and I were walking in the woods. He dared me to strip completely naked. I took the dare. I stripped completely naked in front of him and his sister, ran around the woods for a while. Then when we started to walk on further in the woods, I just picked up my clothes, walked on with the clothes, and stayed completely naked. Later, they started asking me to please put my clothes back on, out of fear that our parents may come out in the woods and catch us. I told them no, they should strip off naked with me, because it felt great, but they refused to out of fear. Now, at age 7, I had not had the talk about the birds and the bees. I had no clue about sex. So, my joy for nudity was pure joy for nudity. After that, I often went out into the woods and stripped off completely naked and walked through the woods in the nude. I found life, when it got stressful, that a walk in the woods in the nude would calm me down and I would return in a peaceful state of mind. Now, I was raised in a pastor's home where I was taught that nudity was bad. In fact, that I'd go to hell if I was nude in public. The only place I was allowed to be nude was in the shower, and even in the shower in front of other boys, because back then, you had one big shower room and everybody took a shower together. But that's also where I learned body shame, because I didn't have a large penis, and so typical boys makes fun of you, and I learned to have body shame. Now, growing up in the 60s and the 70s, there was a lot of secret sexual talk. I knew I enjoyed being nude, so it must be my sexual drive, is the conclusion I came to through what my parents had told me and through what society was teaching me. I mostly kept my nudity a secret due to not wanting to get in trouble and also body shame. Now, I did occasionally go streaking when dared to. Then I got into sex, and I thought, just like society teaches you, nudity and sex equals sex. Well, later on, I got into truck driving over the road. Often, I would strip completely naked during the night when I would get tired and drive that way, sometimes during the daylight. Mostly I think it was because the chance of getting caught, the thrill, would keep me awake. Well, then when my wife started riding with me, one night she was asleep in the sleeper. I got tired and I got naked. All of a sudden I hear a voice, "You're naked." Busted. I started to grab my clothes and put them back on, and she said, "No, I like my drivers naked." She come up and sat with me for about 10 minutes, and then she stripped completely naked. We rode many miles that way, both of us completely nude, but it was from a sexual thing. Later, after she got pregnant, we had a son. We both got back into church, rededicated our lives to Christ. I even later became a preacher myself. But I still enjoyed being nude. But she, and partially from my way of teaching her, that she couldn't separate nudity and sex. Well, even I still didn't know quite what I know today. One day I was looking through some podcasts and I learned that I was a nudist because they were describing me. Then I found a Christian nudist site where they showed me scriptures that proved that it was okay to be nude, even in front of other people. Even the prophets in the Old Testament preached in the nude. One day I was talking to my wife, trying to explain to her that I was a nudist. She was not going for it. She thinks I'm in the wrong. She did agree for me to be nude at home. Then I started finding platforms where I would be allowed to post nude pictures on their site. I remember posting my first nude picture online. I got a lot of compliments, no insults. It felt great to be accepted for who I am, a nudist, non sexual nudist. Frank said something one time on the podcast about people posting nude pictures for the excitement of being seen. Maybe for some, but I believe there are many like me. It was acceptance for being who I was, the way God created me, and not being ridiculed and insulted in the public, being nude in the public eye. I later started wanting to go to a nudist resort to be around other people who thought and felt the way I do. The joy of being nude without sex or insults. I tried to get my wife to go, but she was afraid to because she cannot separate sex and nudity. And two, she was afraid that we would get arrested. So she said if I wanted to go myself, I could. So I did. I remember after I checked in, I went to my cabin, stripped nude. I stood there at the door and thought, I'm about to step out this door into public completely nude and not get in trouble. I stepped out on the patio, waved at a couple that was next door. They waved back and said hi, like no big deal. I took a walk around the grounds, checking out, meeting some people nude, some people clothed, and everybody was friendly and waved and like it was no big deal. And I thought, this is the way life should be lived. I later went down to the jacuzzi where I met about 10 different people. They were having a potluck that evening. I got invited to. I remember standing there talking with people. I had forgot that I was nude and that they were nude, both male and female. And it hit me. This is the way life should be lived. The first time I ever really got nudity was when I was talking with a young man in a coffee shop. It was a hot summer day, and this girl walked through in shorts and a summer shirt, like a spaghetti top. And as she walked by, he looked at me and he says, that slut. And I looked at him and I says, well, why do you call her that? And he said, because she's tempting me. I said, I see nothing wrong with the way she's dressed. It's a hot summer day. She's trying not to cook. I said, what does the Bible say about sin? It says it starts in the mind, then you entertain the sin, and then after you entertain it, you act it out. That's when it becomes full-blown sin, right? He says, yes. I said, so if you have control of your mind, the way that girls dress should not bother you. In fact, if you really had true biblical control of your mind, she should be able to walk through here completely nude without you having any lust. He said, that's deep. I said, yes, but that's truth, isn't it? That's when I really got it. Nudists have a better grasp on sexual control than most Christians do. So, Frank, I think you should keep up what you're doing. You're educating people, and that's what needs to be done. In fact, you might do a show where you talk about do's and don'ts of being a nudist, such as like when taking pictures, not spreading your legs and stuff like that, and just being normal you. So keep up the good work, keep educating people, because I believe there are some people out there that are acting out as a fool, that they want to be a nudist, they just don't know how to. So keep educating, Frank.
And there you go, a voicemail from Ken, one of our regular listeners. He writes in just about every week, and we appreciate that. He lives in the Texas area, the United States of America, so we appreciate that very much, Ken. Lisa, any thoughts on his letter slash voicemail today?
I think it's extremely interesting because Ken is a young man child, discovered the joy of how much fun it is to just run through the woods naked.
Mhm.
I had to be out in that fresh air to just feel like you're part of the planet. You're grounded and you feel great. And then as he grew up, all those outward issues that people bring with them start to, it's just like for any child, there's a level of innocence, and then suddenly all of the bad things come into their lives and turn some of that joy into, fear. And it's unfair. And the fact that he had to be frightened if his parents found out. But this is how we should start, and this is how we should be about naturism. It's just free and open and honest.
Mhm.
But then he learned that wasn't the way things were going to go.
Yeah. I was struck by near the end of his voicemail, and I have his email in front of me
Mm.
to refer to so I can read this. Yeah, at this naturist place, he stepped on the patio, waved, said hi to all these naked people. They smiled and waved back. And then he said, everything was like a normal day in a clothed world, but I was completely naked and it was normal. That's exactly what we're hoping for here. I wish I could live every day like this. Then he talked about they were having a big potluck that evening. They invited him there. And he said, I remember one time I was standing there talking with everyone at the potluck. I forgot I was nude. I forgot most of them were nude. I thought to myself, now this is the way life should be lived. It takes away all of the nonsense and other words you could use for nonsense. You're just you. I'm just me. We're enjoying a potluck and a night outside under the sun or under the trees or whatever time of day it is, right?
That's exactly what we want. And, if we it's at that point where people suddenly realize if you strip away everything, you're not just stripping clothes away, you're stripping away your attitude, your preconceived notions about who people are. We're always going to have the personalities are going to come into play in this, but it's a pure form of connection when you have nothing else to hide. You're just who you are. You forget a lot of the things that have always been important to you down before. It's amazing to have that feeling.
Yeah, very much so. So we appreciate Ken and yeah, clothes for a living for all the right reasons. It's amazing what happens when you try it, and those who have tried it understand. Those who are listening to us for information, well, there you go. Ken just laid it right out there. You forget you're naked. You forget they're naked. You're just enjoying each other for what they're all about. And Lisa, with that, we are going to have to head for the hills today. No baked goods today. We'll let you off the hook, but can you bring some next week or some fruit? Not that we're getting spoiled around here, but what do you think?
Oh, okay. Well, if I have to sing for my supper, then I will definitely do so. And I'm sorry, but I was just crazy busy this week and did not have time to slave over a hot stove for everyone here.
Well, that's fully
But I will.
understood. And we appreciate it. And we appreciate not only your work with the website, but also those memes you created right around the time of the voting. I didn't put it on Twitter, but yeah, those were created by Lisa Monroe, and we appreciate that as well.
Well, you're quite welcome.
All right. Have a great clothes-free week, Lisa Monroe. We'll see you next time.
Okay, Frank. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. The terrific Lisa Monroe. We appreciate her all of the time. We appreciate when she pops in to do these segments. We appreciate all of her website work, all of her meme work last week. Does a terrific job, and we appreciate all the time that she gives to us, to the show, and to you. That's why we're here, spreading the word about naturism, nudism, clothes-free living for all the right reasons, and all of the joys and benefits that come with it. I also very quickly wanted to mention, we have given you a brand new show every Saturday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern Time for the last 48 weeks, including today. There will come a time, and I've said this before, where I will be called out of town on a semi-emergency. My mother is elderly. She's a long ways away from me. And at some point, like last year, before we started doing this show, I was called away for 2 or 3 weeks. That could happen again. It will happen again, whether it's tomorrow, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, who knows. But at some point, I'll get a call, and within hours, I'll be on a plane. If that happens, we will have a best of show ready to go. I put a few together just in case that happens. So you'll still get new content every Saturday morning. Might not be 100% brand new, but it will still be new because it was put together just for you. How about that? And no, I'm not anticipating anything soon. That's not a prelude to some news. No news. We plan to be here next week for episode 49. Just wanted to give you a heads up in case you tune in and say, what the best of all that little, where did he go? Well, now you know. You're listening to Naked Nudists and Naturists, episode 48. We thank you very much for being with us. And now let's get to part 2 of my interview with the very terrific ANDEE RODGERS. Well, I can tell you this, and I don't want Tom to come to my house and beat me up for saying this. Yeah, I've never been in the same room with you, so I can't say this for sure. But I've seen you online. We're looking at each other right now. Your smile lights up a room. So, and I know people have caught on to that. Like, here's this woman who just thinks very positively, and part of that is you could have the worst smile in the world, but if you think positively and you know who you are, you smile better, and people just it's not so much the smile they're looking at, they're looking at you and your the energy you put out there. And yeah, you light up a room, and I think you realize that now, right?
I am. And
Yeah,
what that goes back to is that first woman that I saw
yeah,
lighting up.
yeah,
Her face was lit up, and I feel like
yeah,
I'm finally there.
yes,
Mostly
yes,
I'm barefoot
right,
with the smile and the confidence that she had. I
yeah,
have to put shoes on. They're going to be sandals or something like that.
yeah,
But I think I'm growing on this tour, and I hope to always continue to grow and hear the words that come from ladies in the tour. They're encouraging words or words of some ladies have said, hey, maybe this would help improve it. And I take every ounce of, it's not criticism, it's advice to try to make it better, because I always want to improve and I always want to make the best presentation I can for women. So that's great.
yeah. Now, to be clear, every one of your presentations is at a nudist or naturist club. Is that correct?
Correct. It is.
Every woman there is at least a half a step in where she should be, or not
Yeah,
necessarily. Oh, yeah.
I think
Okay.
so. There were some women that were absolutely brand new,
Okay.
first time at a nudist club, and they joined the presentation. Like,
Oh,
they're on the tour of the grounds
yeah.
that people give, and they're like,
Oh,
"Oh,
wow.
what's going on?" And they joined in, and it was fantastic.
Okay.
To be the first person that someone hears when at your first visit to a club, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that was
Right.
incredible.
Yeah.
And then, so, I'd say primarily 85% are people who've at least been a nudist for a little while or a very long time. But
Okay.
there was a small amount that were first timers, or it was their second time.
That's great.
One club, there was a woman, was her second time there, and she wants to be part of the next WOW campaign, which is coming up. And her word that she chose was yes. She was
Wow.
tired of saying no
Yeah.
to new things and tired of saying no. So she chose the word yes. And
Right.
that was just, oh my gosh, that's so great.
Yeah. That's right. Now, as I recall, listening to your reports that you've been submitting to us, we've been playing them on the show, Naked Nudists and Naturists. At some point, and maybe it's every time, some woman gets up there nude, and other people take markers and write words on her body, words of positivity, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So we have a few interactive elements
Okay.
to the presentation. So at the end, I asked for a live art model if
Okay.
they so feel.
Yeah.
Some
Right.
places I haven't asked because I just didn't feel that's what people wanted to do.
Right.
But in most places, I have at least one or two. I think one place was three.
Yeah.
And it
Oh.
feels weird. I think it feels weird to start with, to go up and write on somebody's body.
Mhm.
And it felt strange for the model, and it felt strange for the writers. But once they started writing these words of empowerment and
Yeah.
love, and
Yeah.
one was a beautiful smile, and one's joy, and one's so many positive words, that by the end of that experience, I would read to the models what people wrote on their body, and it just was very powerful for them.
Oh.
But to also take the words in your mind and put them physically on your friend and
Yeah.
tell them this was also powerful for the people doing it.
Yeah.
So those were great
Yeah.
experiences together. So
And very affirming. And I remember one story. You might have said this a couple of times. Okay, during the day, whatever, you write the words of positivity all over this woman's body. The
Hmm.
next day you see her, the words are still there. She didn't want to
Yeah,
shower because this
she
is so
didn't.
good.
She didn't. And I think so the markers I bring are henna markers or they're washable markers, but I think somebody
Yeah.
picked up a Sharpie and it was black.
Oh,
And
no.
she's like, I can't get this off. I'm like, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. I tried to make sure there's no Sharpies in the room. But so she carried that one a little longer than she wanted to. But yeah.
But I thought there was somebody who purposely kept it on the next day.
Yes, there was. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Two, actually. Two
Okay.
ladies, different
I thought so.
clubs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't wanna wash them off, so that was really, really cool for me. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem I've heard from people in, let's say, your situation, bad body image, didn't feel too good about yourself, and actually tried to kill yourself, when you were a kid, to the point where you are now, total positivity, love being nude. I'm me, and please accept me because I'm not changing. I am who I am, and it's great. The problem some people have told me is, okay, now what do I do when I want to go to the store? I actually have to put clothes on, and I don't like it. So do you struggle with that sometimes? Like, oh shoot, you got to be kidding! I got to put something on. That happens
Always.
sometimes. Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
so. Yeah, I thought so.
always. I
Yeah,
hate it. I absolutely hate it.
yeah,
On the tour, I have one just a dress in particular when we have to go shopping.
yeah, yeah.
So I don't have to put a bra on, and just some shoes, and it's very loose fitting and but still, I feel good wearing it. I feel it's
Yeah,
flattering.
yeah.
And but it's comfortable. It's not tight jeans that are not fitting
Mm,
me or I'm not a big fan of jeans anymore. But
no, and I know you've discovered. It sounds like the women at these clubs have discovered is we can use clothes to get a certain effect, whether we want to look totally relaxed or like the person in charge. And I did that during my career.
mm,
The old dress for success. When it was time to walk into a room and take control of the room, I knew how I had to dress. I knew how I had to act. And yes, it was all an act because
hmm,
quite simply, quite frankly, I wish I could have said, can I just be naked and we can sit down and, have some coffee together? But you can't do that in the corporate world. You have
no,
to have the suit and the polished shoes, just look like $1,000,000. But when it comes right down to it, when we are nude, all of a sudden, as you know, everything goes away. All the fraudulent behavior, the phony stuff is just gone. You can't even fake it anymore because it's just you, right?
right,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I feel that's where we get to know each other
Yeah.
on a much deeper level
Oh, yeah.
because all the pretenses are gone. It doesn't matter what you're wearing, what you're driving, what you do for a living. It's
No.
just it's just us
Yeah.
together and that's created some of the best relationships I've ever had. I mean, I have been looking for a best friend my entire life. I wrote an article about that. It was in the last bulletin, the winter
Yeah.
bulletin,
Mhm.
but I never accomplished that because all the people I chose were kind of users.
Yeah.
But
That's what happens.
but in I have such strong best friend girlfriends currently
Yeah.
that I'm just flabbergasted at at that. I had to join nudism.
Yeah.
But they're real people. They're real relationships because we're not fake. We're not hiding anything. This is who we are.
That's it.
And it's those relationships that have nurtured me. And hopefully I'm nurturing them as well. I don't know where I'd be without those ladies.
Right. Now, you
So
said the relationships can go much more deeply, but they also get there a lot more quickly, don't they?
they do.
They
They
don't take
do.
years to develop. It's sometimes within 5 minutes, we're best friends because all of the junk has been eliminated.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think so. I don't know what
Yeah.
I'd do without them.
Yeah, exactly. I remember going to this one resort with a couple of friends a long time ago, and I was talking to this one guy. I didn't know him, but his name was, just gave me his first name. Whatever. We're talking, and we were talking about baseball. He found out I was a big baseball fan, so was he. So we're discussing the players and on and on. And then later, my friend said, "Do you know who that guy was you were talking to?" I said, "Oh yeah, that was make up a name. That was Bill." He goes, "Yeah," and he told me his full name. He was actually the literally a billionaire of some corporation that he had started from scratch and made it into a multi-billionaire corporation. And I was much younger, and I didn't realize, like, he just seemed like an average guy off the street talking baseball, like I am. They said,
Yeah.
"Well, no, you're both no, he's a billionaire." I said,
And why does that matter so much? I mean, would
it
my
doesn't.
conversation change at all? No, it
No,
wouldn't. Yeah.
no, it didn't matter. But also, I didn't suspect a thing because he was him and I was me, and we were talking baseball.
Yeah.
How do we convince people of that who've never tried this before? Like, seriously, ladies, you take your clothes off, sit down and have some coffee or some wine, and
Hmm.
life will get better. How do you convince people of that?
It takes that first step on their part too. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
carry the brochures, the body positivity brochure that a group of women created. It's on the website. It's on the WINR website. It's on the ANNR Northwest website. It's on the ANNR website. I carry them with me everywhere I go, and I talk about nudism everywhere.
yeah.
And the first thing people say, the first thing women say is, "Well, I can't go until I lose weight."
Uh huh.
And I'm like, "No,
Right,
that is not what it's about." So
right.
I'll show you, but you can maybe put the link to it. This is the brochure I carry with these beautiful women.
Hmm.
These are from Mountaineer Ranch, all different shapes, colors, sizes.
Right.
And I think this is what the average nudist club looks like.
Yeah.
We are not Baywatch.
Right.
You do not need to lose weight before you come. And I know it's scary, but so I encourage them to come up to, usually I'm at home talking with someone, my dentist or my doctor or the nurse, or surprisingly, I've had a lot of conversations in public restrooms.
Okay.
We're at a restaurant and I'll go to the bathroom. I don't know how the subject comes up, but women talk in the bathrooms, you know. We talk.
I've heard. I've heard.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so it comes up and I'm like, let me get you my brochure.
Yeah.
And I just talk about it and how freeing it can be. But they're like, no, gotta lose weight. I'm like, well, give it a try. Just come up for the day
Yeah.
and be by yourself. I'll walk you around, or come up for a music festival. It's a clothing optional event, or find a
Yeah.
clothing optional event somewhere. Give yourself 15 minutes. And if you don't like it, you can leave.
Hmm.
Just getting them to that first step, or the thought that I don't have to be perfect to go. That's not what it's about.
Right. It probably takes them a while just in their own mind before they actually go to the club. Probably takes them a while to get to wrap their head around that. You mean I don't have to be perfect? I don't have to lose 10 pounds? I don't have, yeah, right. You don't have to do anything. Just drive there, show up, and let's get this done. And
Yeah.
that's hard for people to accept sometimes because there's always a price to pay. Okay, I'll do this, but in your case, there is no but. You
No,
just do it. You just
just
do it,
do
right?
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, give yourself, say yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
instead of no. Just,
That's right.
get tired of saying
Yeah.
no. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't do it. And say yes instead.
If people want to get a hold of you, I know you have a website out there through ANNR. I don't know if you have something else, but how can they find you? How can they find out more information about the I Am Perfect tour or anything else that you want to put out there?
It's all on the WINR website. So you can
Okay.
get to it through AANR, or just Google womenandnuderecreation.com and that comes up. The
Okay.
tour's on there. The WOW campaign from last year is still
Hmm.
on there. So you can go read the stories that these women have written. Look at their word and read the entire story.
Yeah,
It's beautiful, the stories that go along with that.
it really
Then
is.
I do have my own blog about growing up on the farm, but it's just all the fun things
Okay. Good.
because I absolutely loved my farm. It's called cowsandshit.com. Shenanigans and antics on
Uh,
old McDonald's farm.
all right. Very good.
So I haven't written
Mm.
anything on that for a while, but there's a lot of fun stories there. They're super short, fun
Mhm.
stories to read. But yeah, the WINR website is really it for me.
Well, I've noticed a bit of an aside, but you mentioned your blog. You're a very skilled writer and also a very skilled speaker. Do you have a background in that or just a natural ability or what?
I love writing. Words do it for me. Words
Okay.
have always been profoundly effective in my life. When I went to college, when my two oldest kids were in college, we all went to college together, which
Hey, all
was
right.
fun.
Yeah.
And I found that I just loved writing. I've
Yeah.
always been an avid reader. And if you're a reader, you're more apt to be a writer, I think.
Right.
So I'd write, and I again, am negative about it. I write
Yeah.
and like these are hokey stories, but the people who would read them would be like, oh no, I love this. I love your voice in this. And
Hmm.
so I've just been writing more and more and more.
Oh,
And
that's
I
great.
really enjoy it. It's also a really therapeutic,
Yeah.
very therapeutic thing to do.
Yeah.
So in my sessions for the tour, I encourage women to write. If you're a writer, grab a journal, write things down, write your negative thoughts down, but also write three positive things at least
Hmm.
about your day. About yourself would be better, but journaling and then looking back on what you've written years ago is really interesting to see how far you've come.
Yeah.
So write,
Yeah.
write, write. Yeah, I love to write.
Yeah, I could tell. I mean, obviously you have a joy of writing, but it's also very good writing. Not everybody who writes well, but in your case, you do. So I was just wondering. So you've always
Well,
had a love.
thanks, Frank. I appreciate that.
You've always had this love of reading and writing. It's just part of who you are.
It is.
Yeah.
And music. Our family is very, very musical family. My dad taught me how to play guitar. Three
Wow.
chords and the truth, he'd call it. But as an adult, I wanted something to do with my dad. He's my hero, but I've always been super scared of him. I
Right.
don't know why, because he's such a great man.
Yeah.
But I asked him to teach me guitar, and he taught me what he knew, and then I learned more. No formal training, just pick a song and learn it and sing it, and I
Wow.
love to sing. And I think we've done karaoke at every stop we've been to. And I've got Tom singing karaoke, which is
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
because he's got a nice voice too.
On one of the shows, one of the reports that you submitted that we played on the show, you talked about you did a Pat Benatar song. So I thought we should have
Hmm.
you sing "Hit Me with Your Best Shot," but I won't actually ask you to do that.
Okay, good. Yeah, he loves me singing that song. So, and it's super fun to sing. So,
Maybe a future show. We'll just have Andy Rogers karaoke hour, and you can sing whatever.
yeah, I wrote a couple of songs. I just wrote one in memory of my mom, and I was just profoundly grieving. And I feel it was a gift from
Yeah.
God that this song was written in an hour. I can't do that, but
Wow.
it's a very powerful song, and I sing it for people occasionally when I feel they need to hear it, and so it was a gift, and I love it. Someday I will record it and put it on my blog.
Oh, definitely.
Maybe this Father's Day. I keep saying that every Mother's Day or Father's Day, I'll record it, I'll put it on the blog, and
Maybe just do it today. Now that's in your mind, just
mhm.
we're done
Yeah,
here. Pick up the guitar, get busy.
yeah,
I do remember seeing a picture of you. You were sitting outside with a guitar. So I
on the
always wondered
dock
where that came from.
at
Yeah.
Serenity Mountain Retreat.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, yeah,
Now, in addition to all this Winner on Wheels, the 2024 I'm Perfect Tour, being the chair of Winner for ANR, you're still the president of your local club, right?
I am. I will be until November of this year, and then a new president takes over.
Did you find a way to get, like, instead of 24 hours a day, somebody gave you 35 to 40 hours a day? Is
Yeah,
that your secret?
exactly. I am letting go of a lot of other things because women in nude recreation is my passion.
Yeah.
And Anner is my passion. I want
Mm,
to promote Anner in what they're doing to keep us nude. I mean, our rights are being challenged all the
yeah.
time in many states. So primarily, if that's all Anner ever did for us, it would be worth the $64 insurance policy for sure a
Yeah.
year. But of course, there are other things too. But what winter is my passion. I want women to not wait 50 years to feel this strongly about their body, or if they have, let's get past that and let's figure out how to help you love you, to love the skin you're in. And so I'm hoping, well, any words that I say when we're talking together, if that helps get them to at least a next step, then I've done my job.
Yeah. Well, on a recent show, Lisa and I, during our segment, were talking about this, and I said, I have never seen an angry person who was nude, or I've never seen a nude person who was angry. And I asked if she had. She said the only time she's seen an angry nude person is when they were told to put on clothes. So, because but it's true. There's a sense of inner peace that comes upon you when the clothes go. You're just a
Hmm.
happier person overall, aren't you?
You absolutely are.
Yeah,
And my mental well being has never been as healthy and strong as it is now, and it continues to grow
absolutely.
just better and better. The only thing that happens is that negative voice creeps in. I think as it always does with everybody.
Hmm.
It comes back in. And so one of the things that I do to fight against that was recommended by my beautiful friend Diane. She's the I'm perfect word person. She says she talks to that voice in her head and she actually gives it a name, which is beautiful to
Yeah.
talk to that voice. And I do. I call mine Aunt Vi because I had an Aunt Vi who was still is. Is just not a ray of sunshine, but
Yeah.
she'll tell you what you're doing wrong and how to fix it.
Oh,
And
good. Good.
you bet, you bet. So I talk to Aunt
Uh,
Vi, and I don't talk very kindly to her, but because they come up. I mean, they're bound to. It's like I said earlier, those negative thoughts are fewer and far between, but they do come up.
yeah.
So we gotta fight against those, and journaling helps me do that as well. And thinking, which is another tip from Diane, when you talk to yourself that way, refocus that and say, would I talk to my daughter that way? Would
There you go.
I talk to myself as a little girl that way? And of course I wouldn't. So why am I doing it to myself?
Right.
Why?
Right.
Yeah. So I've gotten so many great tidbits of advice from Diane. She's incredible.
Hang on to
She's,
her. Don't let her
oh,
go.
yes. Oh, yes.
All right.
Uh,
Last question for you now. Comment on the ANR website that sort of ticked me off. Maybe it didn't bother you at all, though. If you saw it, I'm sure it did. Somebody mentioned you're going around all these clubs at some, expense. Obviously, expenses involved. Preaching to the choir, and first of all, I say if she's preaching to the choir, great, preach on, preach some more, because they'll be emboldened, and they might bring some other people in. And when Andy does show up, as you mentioned, there are new people there who have never tried this before. Thank goodness you're there preaching to the choir, as they say. So
mhm,
no problem with that. And I say if you're spreading the word and you're spreading it positively, I don't care who you're preaching to, do it. Uh,
absolutely.
but the other question is they were asking about expenses, and I don't want to get into a prolonged discussion, but basically, this is being funded by different aspects of ANR as well as contributions.
It is. So when I proposed this to the Northwest board at one of our board meetings last year, they thought it was a fabulous idea, and they allotted $2,500
Okay.
for Tom and I,
Yeah.
which we used for gas. It actually got us the 4,000 miles. I mean, we're
Wow.
not home yet, but it will get us there.
Yeah.
I asked for $3,000 in my winter budget, which they allotted me. Uh, I use that for places to stay.
Okay.
So most of the clubs comped our entire stay. Some did not.
Yeah.
But then there's the in between stays.
Yeah.
So we really couldn't have done this that long if we hadn't gotten that budget from Anner. And then there was one gentleman in particular from the Calypso group.
Mhm.
It's called that he gave us $2,000.
Wow.
And he said, you use this however you need to use it,
That's great.
which was lovely. And some of our friends
Yeah.
have just said, here's some money, use it for whatever you need.
Wow.
So we've been very well funded. And then the Anner office, I think it was Jeff, put out a QR code. He's the
Yeah.
public relations.
Yeah.
Yeah, he put out a QR code periodically with an announcement that if
Okay.
you use your camera and it'll take you to a donation site. And I think we've gotten another last time he said $250 from that. So
That's great.
so Anna is supporting me, the Northwest is supporting me,
Yeah.
people are supporting
Yes.
us because what
Yes.
Tom's been doing has
Yeah.
been equally effective as
Yeah.
far as ANDEE goes. So
And we're going to have him on the show a little bit down the road as well. I hate to say down the road because that's how he ends every segment.
he
We'll see you down the
does. He
road.
came up with that.
So he and I will see each other down the road.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
ultimately, ANR paying for you to go around and talk about naturism, nudism on behalf of the American Association of Nude Recreation. Well, hello. There's probably no
Yes.
better way to spend the money, right?
I think it's been a very good use of the money. We've
Oh yes.
learned a lot.
Oh
We'll
yes.
take that back to took that back to our club this weekend, our Northwest, and then in May we have a board meeting as well, and we'll just share what we found out, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
You got it.
Mostly good.
That's
Mostly
right.
good. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it's been great to have talked to you. You are just, first of all, your smile lights up the room. I'll say that again. But beyond that, just like an angel of light for the world of naturism and
Oh,
people
thank
feeling
you.
better about themselves and getting out there. And it doesn't matter what some clown 3 cities over says about you. You're you.
I
And just get
am.
out there and be your authentic self. And just amazing work. So we appreciate everything.
I have two things I'd love to do in closing.
Yes, absolutely.
Our last session, I talked about how people told me that I was homely, and this woman sitting right next to me goes, well, that's ridiculous because you're so beautiful.
See,
And I'm
there you
like,
go.
I know. And I meant it.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
what the quote that I leave from every session that I do is on the front of this brochure that we made, but it's from Naira Waid. And it says, and I said to my body softly, I want to be your friend. It took a long breath and replied, I've been waiting my whole life for this.
There you go. That's
I can't
amazing.
get through it without crying.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can see why. Well, keep up the great work. I know you will. You don't need me to say that. You're going to do it no matter what I say or what anybody says because you found exactly what works in life for you and for everybody else. And
Yeah.
ANDEE ROGGERS, tell everybody again they can go to the ANR webpage and find the WINR page within. Is that
You can. It's in one of the drop down menus. It'll direct you to Women in Nude Recreation, or you just Google it, womenandnuderecreation.com.
that'll get
You
you
go
there?
directly to the site.
And then one more time, your blog is called what?
Cowsandshit.com.
There you go. Might as well just put it out to see.
Well, we raise cattle, so there was a fair amount there. So
That proves that you're authentic. You're not
I
holding
am.
anything back. All right.
No.
ANDEE ROGGERS, the Women in Nude Recreation Chair for the American Association of Nude Recreation. Keep up your great work. And
Thank
ANDEE
you.
ROGGERS, you bet. Thank you very much. Have a great close for your day. We'll talk again soon. The very over-the-top, terrific ANDEE ROGGERS. What a great story. A terrible story to begin with. Turns out the ending so far is great. Much more to come. And we'll get back to her reports on next week's show or the show after that. And by the way, I was told no matter who wins the presidency of AANR, whether it's Tim Mullins or Linda Weber, they're going to keep ANDEE ROGGERS on as the Women in Nude Recreation chairperson. So that's good news. You'll continue to hear from ANDEE ROGGERS down the road, as her husband Tom likes to say. On next week's show, the next two shows, we will talk to Bruce from South Adelaide, Australia. We've had him on this show before, discovered naturism before he was a teenager, was told it was dirty and sexual and keep your clothes on. He became a pastor, had to keep his clothes on, except when he went out of town and had some hotel time. Otherwise clothes on after 25 years of marriage. He told his wife, hey, by the way, I love being nude. The clothes have come off. And now he is enjoying clothes-free living for all of the right reasons. So next week and the week after, episodes 49 and 50, we will talk to Bruce from South Adelaide, Australia, about his amazing story. Thank you for being with us today on Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 48 today. We give you a brand new show every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Continue to join us. Check us out on our website, nakednudistandnaturist.com, Spotify, Google, Amazon/Audible, Apple Podcasts, and also on Twitter. You can write us anywhere, anytime, any place. And we thank you for being with us today. Plan to join us for every single one of our shows here and have your clothes off when you're listening. We have our clothes off when we're broadcasting, enjoying the naturist life.
We celebrate clothes-free living for all. Remember to enjoy being naked and join us again for Naked Nudists and Naturists.
We drop a brand new show every Saturday morning, so come back and join us. Have your clothes off when you do for Naked Nudists and Naturists. Have a great clothes-free day.